Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a wild, deeply paradoxical story straight out of ancient Islamic historical texts, the tale of Samri the magician. We're going to trace this man's life from a miraculous, divinely protected upbringing all the way to a devastating downfall and a terrifying curse. It's a massive narrative about deception, the very real dangers of blind devotion, and how one single golden idol managed to completely shatter a nation. Right off the bat, the source material hits us with this incredible paradox. We're looking at a tale of two boys, both named Musa, born at the exact same time, but with wildly different destinies. You've got Prophet Musa, who was raised right in the opulent palace of the tyrannical pharaoh, yet somehow grew up to become a revered messenger. On the flip side, you have Musa Samri. He was raised by the angel Gabriel himself, yet he grew up to become a misguided heretic and an absolute master of dark deception. I mean, think about it. How does someone with a literal angel for a guardian go so incredibly wrong? Well, to figure out how this wild divergence happened, we have to look back at the era they were born into. Section 1. A secret mountain upbringing. So, to really understand this, we need to establish who Samri actually was. He was born Musa bin Zafar, and that infamous title, Samri, simply comes from his lineage in the Sumerian tribe. He was born during a terrifying, brutal time when the pharaoh had ordered the execution of every newborn Israelite boy. His mother was, understandably, terrified of pharaoh's soldiers. So to save her baby's life, she made the agonizing decision to hide him in a remote, desolate mountain cave, hoping she could sneak back to check on him. But as you'll see, destiny stepped in with a very different plan. According to these historical texts, Allah commanded the angel Gabriel, or Gabriel, to raise this hidden child. Gabriel actually visited the cave daily to protect him, performing a literal miracle just to keep him alive. Because how do you feed an infant abandoned in a mountain cave, right? Well, the text described that Gabriel fed the baby directly from his fingertips. One finger provided honey, another butter, and a third produced milk. So this baby grows into a young man completely bathed in divine intervention. Now, let's fast forward to the main event and see how all of this builds into one of the most infamous theological betrayals in history. Section 2. Forging the golden calf. Okay, so the Israelites have miraculously escaped across the parted sea, and Pharaoh's pursuing army has drowned. But it left the Israelites with a very unique problem. They were holding a massive amount of jewelry. See, before they fled, the Israelite women had borrowed immense quantities of gold, silver, and jewels from their Egyptian neighbors, pretending they were just attending a 3-day function. But now, the owners were dead, and the Israelites were stuck wandering the wilderness, burdened with all this immense wealth, totally unsure of what to do with it.
This sets up our timeline perfectly. Prophet Musa leaves his people and heads up Mount Tur to receive the Torah, the divine laws. This creates a highly vulnerable 40-day window where he's totally absent. With the prophet gone, Samri, who happens to be a highly skilled metalworker, steps right up. He tells the people, hey, hand over all that heavy, burdensome Egyptian jewelry, and I'll melt it down into manageable bars. But as the days tick by toward day 40, Samri quietly enacts a much, much darker plan. Because Samri wasn't just sculpting a statue, he was combining his metallurgical skills with a literal magical heist. After melting that gold into a stunning calf, he added a secret ingredient, living dirt. Let me explain. Earlier, Samri had recognized the angel Gabriel riding a horse, and he noticed something crazy. Wherever the horse's hooves touched the ground, lush green grass instantly sprang to life. Realizing how profoundly powerful this was, Samri secretly scooped up a handful of this pulsing, magical dirt. And now he threw that living dust straight into the hollow core of his golden calf. And because of that magical dirt, the golden calf actually began to emit a living, echoing sound, almost like a real breathing creature. The Israelites were absolutely mesmerized by it. Seizing the moment, a deceptive Samri stood up and boldly declared to the vulnerable masses, "This is your God, and the God of Musa." It's wild. Despite having just been saved from Pharaoh by a monotheistic god, the people were entirely swept away by the visual spectacle of this magic trick. They literally fell to their knees and started worshiping the calf. You can only imagine the absolute tension when Prophet Musa finally comes down from Mount Tur and witnesses this scene. Which brings us to Section 3, the prophet's furious return. Coming down from the mountain, Musa sees his people committing idolatry, or shirk, and he is engulfed in a furious rage. The immediate fallout is incredibly intense. Musa grabs his own brother Harun, or Aaron, by the hair and beard, demanding to know why he didn't stop them. Harun desperately pleads that the mob had completely overpowered him, even threatening to kill him if he intervened. Hearing this, Musa's anger toward his brother cools, and he begs God for Harun's forgiveness. Then Musa turns his absolute wrath onto the idol itself. He doesn't just knock it over, he completely shatters it, burns it to ash, and washes the remnants down the river to completely erase the sin from their camp. But what about the mastermind?
Section 4. The Curse of Samri. Musa tracks down and interrogates Samri, who confesses the whole thing. He admits he saw the angel's horse and used its magical dirt to create the illusion of a living god. Now Musa spares his life, but he hits him with a devastating curse of poetic justice. Think about it. Samri's crime was using physical touch and a tangible object to manipulate thousands into corruption. So his fitting punishment? He was cursed so that he could never touch or be touched by another human being ever again. If anyone touched him, both he and the other person would fall severely ill. So this man who wanted to be the center of attention and lead a nation was instantly transformed into an absolute outcast. Samri was exiled, forced to live out the rest of his days completely alone in the untamed jungle. He spent his entire life running away from people, literally screaming, "Do not touch me," just to survive. He died completely isolated, unremembered, and with no one to even pray over his grave. Now, the source material doesn't just leave this as a neat piece of historical trivia. It actually uses this ancient narrative to frame a broader, very specific theological commentary. Let's explore that in Section 5, Theological Perspectives on Idolatry. Reflecting on the two Musas, the source presents a really profound takeaway, stating, if there is no grace in one's destiny, even an angel's upbringing cannot save them. It's a fascinating philosophical stance. The source is basically arguing that ultimate guidance depends on your heart, your intent, and divine grace, rather than just the environment you were raised in. Pharaoh's toxic palace couldn't corrupt Prophet Musa, but the angel Gabriel's direct, loving care couldn't save Samri from his own dark intentions. And this leads the source to ask a highly compelling question. How does this ancient history of the golden calf map onto religious practices we see in the modern world? Is this just an old fable, or is human nature doomed to just keep repeating it? From its specific Islamic theological perspective, the source actually draws direct parallels between Samri's ancient deception and modern practices. The text connects the ancient Egyptian worship of animals straight to the golden calf, and then extends this framework to critique the modern Hindu reverence for cows, known as Gaumata. The source's author argues against the logic of elevating an animal to divine status, framing it as an ancient fallacy that's still alive today. Furthermore, the text points to the rise of modern Satanism in parts of Europe, categorizing both of these as contemporary forms of the exact same blind devotion that Samri exploited all those centuries ago. Ultimately, the explainer source firmly concludes that magic, visual miracles, and spectacular illusions, like Samri's speaking calf, are just that, deceptive illusions. They're essentially parlor tricks used to lead vulnerable people astray, not actual markers of divine guidance or spiritual truth. So we're going to wrap up this explainer with a provocative thought that the source leaves us pondering. In our modern age of incredible scientific advancement, space exploration, and AI, are we actually still vulnerable to blind devotion and deception? What modern golden calves might we be blindly following today, simply because they dazzle our eyes and tell us exactly what we want to hear? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and keep questioning what's put in front of you.